Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in November and December and also my 2018 favorites. Here's the sad news. I've combined my November-December wrap-up because I read basically nothing for fun in those months. So without further ado, the book, singular, that I read in November and December is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. As you guys know, I am part of the Shadowhunters read-along that Emma Books is hosting all of Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter books over the course of 2018. I was doing so well, and then November hit, and all of my deadlines. And so I skipped Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy thinking I'd just binge read this before Queen of Air and Darkness came out, and I did manage to get through this in like 5 weeks, but I did not get through Lord of Shadows. I think I read the first 20 pages. On the other hand, this is the list of books that I read for school in the last 5 weeks alone. So when I say I've read nothing, what I mean is I've read nothing that I wanted to read. Ladies and gentlemen, The Life of a Grad Student. If you haven't heard of Lady Midnight, this is the first book in the Dark Artifices series by Cassandra Clare, which is her third Shadowhunter series following Emma Carstairs, who, if you read The Mortal Instruments, appears as a child in the last book. This is now her at 16, along with her parabatai Julian Blackthorn and his siblings. They have adventures, there's a psycho killer on the loose, demons, etc. The first time I read this was when it came out, and I really liked it then. This time when I reread it, I wasn't as big a fan, and again, that could be because I read it over so many weeks, and so I just wasn't like invested in the plot because I was reading all those other books for school. So I find it like it's a lot harder to enjoy a book if you're just getting it in small snippets. So I suspect it's more to do with that rather than the story itself, because I really like Emma as a protagonist, and Julian is of course the most delightful cinnamon roll ever to be written. I did get the chance to meet Cassandra Clare this month on the Queen of Air and Darkness tour, and so I will have a video about that if it's not up already. And yeah, so I'm hoping to like speed through Lord of Shadows now that the term is done and get to the conclusion, because I do want to know what happens and I'm feeling very out of the loop. So that concludes probably the shortest wrap-up ever made, and since I don't want to make a 1 minute long video, I'm now going to take the opportunity to talk about my favorites of 2018. If you've been watching my videos, you will have heard me rave about this before. The Last NAMSARA by Kristen Ciccarelli. This book is just, I just can't express my love. I made a 7-minute long fangirl rant, non-spoilery review. Oh, it's just so good. And Kristen is so nice. I've never met her in person, but I've chatted with her like for 2 seconds on social media when I raved about her books, and she's delightful and her writing is delightful, and this book just makes me feel all the warm fuzzies, and it has dragons, so enough said. So yeah, The Last NAMSARA follows Asha, who is a princess and dragon hunter, on her adventures, and it's so good. Go and read this immediately. The next book on my favorites list is War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. This is not my favorite in the Red Queen series, but it's my favorite of 2018 because it was the end of an era, so to speak. So yes, this is the 4th book in the Red Queen series. I forget if I just said that. It follows Mare Barrow on her post-apocalyptic X-Men type adventures, superpowers, revolutions, evil governments. It's marvelous. No spoilers here, but that significant death still gets me. You guys can watch my book talk on this if you want to know more. Next on my favorites list, How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mather. This book I just picked up randomly. I had never heard of it at all, and I fell in love with it immediately, like from the first sentence. It's so good. This follows Sam Mather, who is a descendant of Cotton Mather, who, if you recall, was involved instigating the Salem witch trials. So this follows his descendant, and also the author is a descendant of him as well, so there's like a family tie for her. But anyway, Sam moves back to Salem, and of course she's hated because this is a witchy town and her ancestor killed a bunch of witches. Things start to go awry. She realizes that she's part of this curse, and her and some other witchy descendants must break the curse, and also there's a super sexy ghost. So mostly what I love about this book is the voice. Sam's voice is very distinct and hilarious, and I relate a lot to it. It's very sarcastic, but also kind of awkward at times, and everything about this is just marvelous, and the ending is very feel-good and sweet and beautiful. It's all the creepy mystery of a paranormal, but like with the sweetest ending, so yes, recommend. And the 4th book on my list is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, and of course you guys have heard of this by now. This is a high fantasy novel inspired by African mythology. The protagonist, Zelie, I think it's pronounced Zelie, not Zelly, I forget, but she's great, and there's like necromancy and magic and like dream romance, feisty princesses, bad boys turned good. It's everything that you need in a fantasy novel. Again, I made a book talk on this. I think I made a book talk on almost all of these favorites, so I will link all of those down below, but I highly recommend if you haven't read this. And of course, the last book on my favorites list for 2018 is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Like Warstorm, this is not my favorite in the series overall. That still is Heir of Fire. But again, it's the end of an era, so it just hits you in all the feels and like kind of closes a chapter on your life. So that is why this makes the list. This was, in my opinion, the perfect way the series should have ended. It wrapped up everything beautifully. With Warstorm, there's a lot of open ends, but I think that fits for that world because it's a short series and it's dystopian, sort of. So it's more real world, so you don't want everything to work out because the real world doesn't work like that, and it's making a commentary on the real world, whereas this is like fairy tale-esque high fantasy, so you want that feel-good ending, and you really get it. And little Aelin is my child. I didn't make a book talk on this, but I did make a hour-and-a-half long reading blog reaction video, so if you want to know all my thoughts and you have time to kill, that's where you can do that. Also, I made a Throne of Glass series wrap-up, so I will link that below as well if you want to know my thoughts on the series as a whole. So there you have it, the books I read in November and December, as well as my favorites of 2018. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you all, and I will see you in the new year, if we're not there yet. I'm not sure when I'm gonna upload this, so never mind. Bye!